What a play, play after play after play.
And he's got a lot of room to run, and she is taking over.
Groans, that's the greatest conference in the country is showing out tonight, gentlemen. I cannot believe it. That is the greatest high school football game.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us on a Tuesday night. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. This is the WCAC Spectacular. He's Tim Strachan.
Man, you know, that's not Kevin Ricka.
That's not Kevin Ricka.
But our set just got a little slimmer and a little bit better looking.
Wow, you just
and the surprise milkshake, pre-show milkshake was fantastic. This Tuesday is starting off great, and with our in-studio guest and the one waiting online,
well,
it's going to be one to remember.
T, it has been said that your milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and I think that's never been truer
Have they
than
said
tonight.
That?
Yes, it's
about
been
me
said.
Specifically?
Well, I think that's what the song was
kind
really
of
trying to get through. Yeah,
okay.
It's in general.
All right.
We're going to get to our main man here in 1 second, but let's get started with something we like to call Around the League. Brought to you by Lido Pizza. Let's get started over in Chantilly, Virginia. The PVI hosting Gonzaga in a game that on paper might have been a foregone conclusion. Gonzaga, number 2 team in the country. Down 3-0 early, the Panthers stormed back with a relentless attack and a phenomenal goaltending performance to claim an upset win. But just 3 days later, the Panthers got a shock of their own. West speaks. The St. John's Cadets came to town, and that vicious offense gave the Cadets a 12-4 win. How great does it look to see that field out in Chantilly get some use? Unbelievable.
This is just indicative of what we see in this conference. No matter what the sport, you know, these guys all have to play each other, and you never know who's going to win. And it's great action, week after week, game after game. Unbelievable.
Heading on over to College Park, staying with the lacrosse theme, PVI alum Roman Pugliese, class of 17, named the Student Athlete of the Year at University of Maryland. The finance major and Terp midfielder was second team All-Big Ten, inside lacrosse midseason All-American. And get this, guys, his sports hero, another guy in the news these days, Tim Tebow.
The tight end.
More
Tim
on
Tebow.
that, the tight end. On our more news on that in the second show of the evening.
Turtles.
Buffalo, New York, closing the book on the recent NFL draft. It's always fun to look at former draft classes. Good Counsel's own Stephon Diggs has established himself as arguably the best receiver from the 2015 draft. First in catches, second in yards, tied for second in touchdowns. Not bad for the 19th receiver off the board.
Did I say I like turtles?
You did say you like turtles. On the move, changing addresses. Archbishop Carol Star Rita James, class of 19, taking her talents to Central Arkansas University. We will never let anyone forget that we boast the best girls programs on the planet here in the WCAC.
No, they're so much fun to watch.
Over in Arlington, Virginia, O'Connell grad Ethan Torres, class of 2017. He'll be taking over place-kicking duties for the Tar Heels, the University of North Carolina, as a graduate student. A very, very smart individual because, T, as we all know, stay in school as long as you possibly can.
Yes, sir. And he's just kicking it, man. He's just kicking it.
Just kicking it. Over in Hyattsville, the undercovered Hyattsville sports scene. DeMatha Stagg, Jaden Bradley, class of 21, named the Big 33 Football Classic, the Super Bowl of high school football. Way to represent the league, Jaden.
Pick, commit.
Out in Kensington, Maryland, we were on hand to catch a gem. As St. John's pitcher Betsy Bromley tossed a perfect game. But before that was in the books, that was Cadet Josie Tadero with an amazing catch. And that's Josie at the plate with a grand slam.
We come out and practice. Last week, everything got rained out, which really sucked. So today, we really came on it.
Our pitcher did fantastic, but she had really good defensive plays behind her, so that was the key. I mean, she threw strikes, pitched for contact, got the plays behind her, so that was the key.
Amazing facilities over there in Holy Cross. Again, just loving seeing kids get to play spring sports.
Yeah.
They missed out on it last year. Good for them to get back out there. And again, those facilities are amazing. Speaking of spring sports, how about the first all-female golf match in the WCAC? The O'Connell girls against the Academy of the Holy Cross. O'Connell won 4-3. Plans are currently underway for a full girls league next year. That is awesome. Great job. And our Around the League is brought to you by our good friends over at Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza is square because they don't cut corners.
That is great. First all-female golf match. It's great to be the first at something.
I didn't realize there wasn't a full-fledged girls golf league because I just stupidly assumed that we just did everything, and the fact that we are correcting this error. The athletes in the WCAC are absolutely the best, and they should be on the golf course. And we will be there. By the way, there's nothing more fun than getting out on a golf course on a Friday afternoon.
Tonight.
What's that?
We talked about it tonight.
I know, but we're going to get footage. I want to get those.
Yeah, we had footage.
I want to get those approach shots. I want to get those long drives.
I've played with Kenny, so
yeah,
I've seen it. So you can't make stuff up.
I can't make it up, right? You just can't do it. Well, let's bring everybody in. We have an awesome show tonight. Pride of Gonzaga in the house. Two amazing gentlemen, class of 92, class of 95, the Tuohey brothers. Sean on the bottom right corner of your screen. Brendan to my left. We'll let them argue about who's the more handsome of the Tuohey brothers. But listen, you guys are making an amazing mark on this earth. One of the big reasons we had you on, and we wanted to make sure we dedicated a show to it, was the good work you're doing with the Peace Players, not just domestically but globally, helping kids out in some of the hardest hit places for kids to have the kinds of opportunities that we want for all kids. So it's amazing. It's amazing work. We're going to talk a lot about it on the show tonight, but we're going to mix in a little bit of good-hearted lightness. That's what that guy on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, I believe, is best known for. Welcome to the show, Sean Tuohey, Brendan Tuohey.
Great to be here.
Let's get you. I know your brother's going to talk over you if you don't get that microphone up in that corner.
My God, that's not going to help it.
Sean, how's Buffalo treating you?
Oh, I moved to Solano Beach, California about 2 years ago, and so I've left those Buffalo days behind.
When we talk about it, I always think about you as just a Buffalo guy. I mean, you're in my mind, you're a Buffalo guy.
I got the scars, man. The place is it's a beautiful place, but it's not an easy place, and so we hightailed out of there about 2 years ago, and now I wake up and surf every morning. And I couldn't be happier.
You were born and grew up on the East Coast, but you've always had a West Coast mentality, as far as I've known.
Oh man, this place is brilliant in that regard. It's just so naturally stunning, and yeah, we're just. I burned the boat I sailed in on in the harbor, so I'm never leaving.
And Brendan, you staying local, and let's talk a little bit right off the bat here about the Peace Players, and I guess let's start at the beginning, and maybe the two of you can give us an idea of how it started, how it came to be, and what it's all about to you guys.
Sean, you want to start?
So Brendan played for a team in Dublin after college. Ireland's basketball is one of the lowest in the world in terms of where there's any sort of professional. They pay two Americans, and so I went over there after college. I played Lehigh and then Catholic University, and figured I'd latch on with a team in Ireland and then use that as a springboard for Europe. And I was just always taught that if you just you work hard, you can keep climbing. Unfortunately, I was cut from the only team that offered me a tryout in Belfast, and I was too embarrassed to come home because I'd had a barbecue and told all my friends I was going over to Ireland to play basketball. And so I just I stayed on there and just started coaching basketball in primary schools. Showing up at schools saying, "Hey, I'm an American. I'll coach your kids." Basketball is very unique there. It's not affiliated by either religions. Most of the sports are the Catholics play Gaelic sports.
Brendan Tuohey and brother Sean both fell for basketball.
we jumped the gun there. Keep going.
Oh, no worries. And so basketball's a new sport, not really affiliated with other side, and so we got a lot of kids playing. And at the end of the year in Ireland, I knew I had created I knew other Americans would love to come over to Ireland to coach basketball, but I was kind of, Ireland, like Buffalo, is a hard place to live. It's just dark all the time. So I wanted to keep going and just seeing what else is out there. And a police chief in Ireland who'd done some work in South Africa suggested that he knew a contact there that something like this might work there. And, I came back to the States, and Brendan and my father sort of latched onto this idea that basketball for conflict resolution is a really good idea. Let's build this thing. So we grew up in the Irish Catholic Mafia of DC. We asked a lot of our parents' friends for money to get this thing started, and went down to South Africa in 2000 with $7,000 in my pocket, with the idea that I could get blacks and whites in South Africa playing together. And just like in Ireland, the sport is divided along racial lines. The blacks play soccer, the whites play rugby. We landed in a spot called Durban, which has the second highest Indian population and in the world, and they all play cricket. So no one really played basketball, and I went around to the schools, got the kids playing, and it was pretty easy in that regard. Just to get energy through just the way we grew up here, youth sport, and bringing that sort of that sort of energy behind it, and it got going. And then Americans just started showing up in Ireland and Africa, and that's really how it took off.
Well, let's start there a little bit. We could fill up an hour or more with all the stories that you guys have, but I have a vivid memory of when you came back from Africa the first time, Sean. We met up at the Bark and Dog to have a drink, to catch up, and you told me a story I will never forget. It was the Adidas pump shoes story. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
When
they broke into your car?
Yeah, so I arrived in South Africa in the summertime where there was no schools in session, and I really had nothing to do. And one of the people who was kind of advised me was like, hey, work with the street kids. These street kids, like in Durban, the surrounding areas, HIV is ravishing the entire communities, and all these kids end up in the city, and it's literally like Lord of the Flies. These kids just they're huffing on glue, they're robbing each other. They're just, you don't even stop at red lights at night there. It's pretty dangerous. But I went to the street shelter and started coaching the kids, and it was these kids they're humans and you actually care about them, but it was sort of a fiasco in terms of there's different kids every day. They're huffing on glue in between timeouts, and I had these Air Maxes, and one night my car came out in the morning, my car got broken into. The next day I rock up in practice, there's a 9-year-old kid wearing my size 12 Air Maxes. And I've just my window is completely shattered, brought him over to my car, and, pointed to the window, pointed to the shoes. And he's like, look at me. He's like, what? My cousin gave me these. And I felt bad because I kind of used that as an out to pack up and roll out of the street shelter and never go back. But I was sort of looking for an out. So it was $150 shoes that got, and that sounds really bad to say, but I mean, the street kids, it's a whole nother level of issues there, man. I just wasn't equipped to take that on.
But I bring it up because it's so easy for you guys now to talk about how you got it started, but it was so hard. I mean, it was so hard. This was not an easy thing to do.
Well, I think it was really hard on multiple levels. I mean, on one hand, for Sean to show up in South Africa, not really know anybody, and be able to build trust and have even schools let him show up and coach his kids, and to start from nothing as an outsider and build a program that locals keep coming to, they love, they trust, and people are used to people from the outside coming in with the best intentions, but then they leave. And I think the big question is, and the big challenge for us was, how do you build something that lasts as well as something that is locally owned, that is not as seen like an American or Sean's thing or anybody else's thing, but their thing. and to do it in a bunch of different places, while at the same time raising money and building out an infrastructure and a board, and
where your role became big.
And we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, Sean didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. We made tons of mistakes, learned on the fly. But I think to our credit, we were never shy about saying, this is not working, let's figure it out, let's change it.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, hey, we started some way, we can't admit failure, or we got to continue that. It's like, hey, what's working, what's not, let's fix it. And again, it wasn't that simple. I mean, there were a lot of kind of hard moments. And I remember several times, my job was not as hard as Sean's, but I remember several times at my desk at my dad's office that he gave to us for nothing, like having this headache, not having any money, not knowing how we were going to get through the next month, and being like, I see no scenario in which we're still alive in like a couple months. And that happened, a bunch of times.
Devin and Keith Ergo recruited like 3 of their friends, and they went over to Northern Ireland with the first class that was going to be there full time. We literally sent 6 Americans over to Northern Ireland with money in the bank to cover like 6 weeks.
And because it was all Devin's friends, we're like,
Yeah.
Payment's not coming in this month. Can you go ask your dad?
Well, how did you grow from there to where you got today?
So Ireland and Africa are South Africa and Northern Ireland are two like 1980s conflicts that just were not that interesting to the American funding base that we thought was that we thought it should be. So we knew we'd have to go to Israel where there's live war, where to actually show like this idea works, to salvage the entire program. We just knew we had to prove that it was so much more relevant than Northern Ireland and South Africa. Those places, they just kind of time passed. They're just not in people's minds. So the Israel program, when we went over there, that changed the game.
And then along with that, like hiring the right people.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it was mostly led by our friends or people that come over for a year or two, and we're great, but they weren't going to be there long term, and they weren't the people we really need to lead it. Mm-hmm. And that also involved like building local boards of directors. Like each one of our sites are their own organizations with their own legal and charity status. And we were really fortunate. One of Sean's friends from Lehigh, Sean went to Lehigh first, as you know, for the first year and a half, named Tebow Manikin. And so Sean recruited Tebow, I think it was like the second year. And Tebow moved to South Africa to work with Sean. And he's just a brilliant kid. And he really worked first on the South Africa piece, then on the Northern Ireland piece. Like, what do we need to do to become a legit organization there? How do we raise local money? How do we train and build a local staff
and get sustainable in each location?
And that's to our credit. Like a lot of these efforts are funded from one source or funded from the U.S. But now we're in Northern Ireland, South Africa, Israel, West Bank, Cyprus, and now 5 cities in the U.S. And then we do projects in different places around the globe. But our international sites are all pretty much locally funded.
That's awesome.
From government, from institutions, from corporates, from foundation. And I know of all the things that have come from Peace Players, what I'm personally most proud of is that now people there don't even necessarily know who, they still kind of know who Sean is, but they don't know who I am, and it's not about us.
Yep.
And these programs and organizations are going to live on far beyond us. And really they have this sense of the people that are in these places own it.
Wow. It just, you guys have taken this idea, that was just an idea, and you've been able to extend it to the entire world, clean it all up so that they are self-sustained now. And when you go to your website, you can tell the reliance you have on the people that are on the ground in the places where they are.
Yeah.
because they are in tune with the community. They're in tune with what's needed there, and they're growing this idea you guys had all over the place.
And I think as we started to work in the U.S., so we partnered with Nike and launched a program around building equity in partnership with Nike in 2017. So we're now in Baltimore, Brooklyn, Chicago, Detroit, and L.A. And while they're all different cities with different contexts and their own challenges, the fact that we've been able to learn these lessons, abroad in terms of the importance of local ownership, in terms of how to build sustainability, in terms of adapting to meet local needs while at the same time having a common vision that everyone kind of buys into. So that's been a huge piece, being able to, to again learn from a lot of our mistakes, but to take those lessons as we built what will be, I think, something really special.
Look at that! Just look at that map. I mean, from where the idea started to what we're looking at on there is just unbelievable.
Well, I think a really important part, and I think I'd love to hear Sean on it, was us growing up. Like we kind of skipped over that a little bit, but that I know for Sean and for me was a huge piece of it. We grew up in DC.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
And I mean, T, you've been our house that we grew up in, and you've been up to Shepherd.
Yeah.
And, we were fortunate that we lived in this neighborhood that was really diverse, Shepherd Park area, DC. And we happened to be 2 blocks away from Shepherd School, where there was some of the best basketball in the city. And, I mean, I'm not particularly athletic. Sean and Devin are more athletic than I am. But the only reason I became a basketball player and could play is because I spent so much time there. And, as we were able to always play with older kids. And
we got to get Gonzaga. Yeah. When did Gonzaga get a color camera? Was it like in the 2000s? Because they have everything in black and white.
Because Joe Rada only takes black and white pictures. We know this.
I mean, is that surprising at all?
No, he's old school. That's how Joe Rada rolls.
Yeah.
But you guys were entrenched in these ideas.
Yeah, from growing up. And I think that was purposeful from my parents. Mm-hmm. They wanted to live in that type of neighborhood. And, we were able to develop these relationships and, see people as human beings and not even be aware so much of we were actually a little bit of the outsiders where we lived.
I remember being in your backyard for something and looking next door, and Alonzo Mourning just walks out and kind of gives all of us a little, wave. We're like, oh my God, that's Alonzo Mourning at your next door neighbor's house. That's awesome.
What's that?
That's it was very normal to us to be around wealthy African American families and people, and that's the way we just thought the world was. There was, DC is a very unique place in that regard, and to have all these relationships with, middle class African Americans, and it's really shocking that I've learned this. That's not how the world is, which is pretty sad. But when I got down to South Africa, you could go to the white section. And it was kind of very kind of the white race in South Africa is kind of a dying race, and they kind of banded together. I just felt there was kind of a stale atmosphere. Or you go into the black environment, and it's just so much fun, and they wanted to know you because they didn't really interact with a lot of white people. So it was almost like a carbon copy of what we grew up with in Shepherd in South Africa, and it felt very natural in that regard. So, I was very at home and calm in the townships. Whereas white people would never go, and that's sort of how we grew up, just hanging out and kicking it, and it's one of the more disappointing parts of growing up in the world that we live in now today is just how few interactions there are to rub shoulders with African Americans, especially out here where I am right now. It's
in Buffalo.
Well, even I find, I don't know how you do your guys' kids, but I find having to manufacture those types of opportunities we were lucky just to have.
Yeah. And then how about the fact that you guys get to do it together? And I know your dad, helped you guys out a ton in the beginning and your friends, but to be able to do it as brothers, and to be able to build this thing and to do it with family and friends has got to be, one of the cooler parts of this whole story.
It is. And I think this community that rallied, I mean, basically we were able to raise money early on because people like my parents, right? So we sent them letters, and then, you know, we'd
those
have fun,
guys.
yeah, and we'd have events, and, you know, our friends would throw parties for us in New York, and, you know, we would recruit our friends. I mean, T was the keynote speaker and the host of an event we did at Columbia really early on,
I do.
right?
I remember that.
And what I'm really appreciative of, number one, is
I was
that,
trying to drive a Maryland Georgetown game
yeah, we had,
back in the day
yeah,
before it actually happened.
But and also for people, so many people that we all know were kind of in at the ground level, and they were really a big part. And I think everyone rightly feels good that, hey, I was part of this that started. I supported it, and now look where it's come, and I'm part of it.
Well, we got some folks on the board. Some people were talking about it before. Most notably, Jeff Big Play Clay, Keegan Tears out there. I know we have a lot of folks from I Street keeping their eyes on you guys, we shouldn't gloss over that something this good came out of our conference. Obviously, you know, you guys, Purple Nation, Purple Eagle Nation, and that's all. That's well and good. That's all fine. But at the end of the day, and something we like to say, you know, when all that's over in the past, and we're kind of one big Catholic athletic conference family. I know the stories run deep. We were telling some before we went on the air today. That is a great. By the way, that's a great picture right there. Again,
so I was so mad at the coach because I rode the bench freshman year. I was prepubescent and he never put me in the game. So I was like, screw this guy. I'm gonna ruin his picture. So I got him back. But no, the Metro Conference. You know, my junior year we were ranked 6th in the country. After the season, we were invited by the Peace Corps to St. Lucia to run sort of coaching programs. When I was at Catholic, my little brother's team, because Brendan was over in Ireland, Gonzaga went over to Ireland. So I mean, I don't think that's happened since, but Gonzaga basketball was taking international trips every 3 years, and that experience really I think was very formative for me. Look, I can take this game and move out in the world and really sort of, live a life out here with this game, which was created, which was experienced through Gonzaga. But, there's no better conference. And, I was watching one of your former shows. You're talking about, what is it like pulling up at the gyms? I mean, do you remember going into Carroll's gym, just the smell and how scared I would get when I pull up to DeMatha and they've got grown men in layup lines and JV? Each place had its own feel. And it was just that was one of the highlights of life. It's just, good counsel. You'd have hot girls eating blow pops out in the parking lot when you're pulling up. There was the only co-ed school. It was, and St. John's always smelled like stale French fries.
Oh, those French fries were good though. Those French fries were pretty legit.
I mean, I think that's right. And I know for me, and I would imagine other people that played are fairly similar. I remember all my high school games.
Oh, yeah.
Much better than any time else.
But I remember even going back further than that, being a kid and going to the games.
Going to games.
Your parents, hey, Friday night, Thursday night, Tuesday night, whatever it might be, you're throwing in the car, you're going to watch, future college and NBA stars. And then the next thing you know, we were all in it. And we were in those games. And we were playing against those guys. But just the fact that the game itself, I know how crazy Sean was when I first became friends with him at the age of 12, how crazy he was about the game and how you guys have you might not have made it to the NBA, but you're professional basketball men. And, you've allowed the game to be a part of you for this long.
Yeah, I consider myself pretty lucky, to be honest.
So Brendan said something the other day. I would want to get your guys' feedback. He's like, look, it's not the same anymore in the Metro Conference or whatever, CAC. You don't have these kids who, because I rode the bench. I was I started on freshman. I rode the bench on JV and then just dedicated myself to playing. And then eventually got time, senior, summer going into senior year, started playing. He's saying that they're bringing in such studs every year in all these programs that there's 4 freshmen who are playing varsity, and that adds up to the 12-man roster. So there's no way that kids like me can make it in this level because it's so much talent. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'll lead us off with saying, because there's some truth to the level of talent having, we show up to games, we watch freshmen play. These freshmen are ready to play at the varsity level a lot of times in every sport, and it is not normal. But, Sean, there's always a spot for someone who wants to work for it. And I think that's true for Steve Turner's program today. I'm sure BN and Trivers on the football field, Pat Ward over at St. John's. I mean, you guys through your experiences after college can testify to what coaches want. They want kids who just are willing to work, who are willing to pay attention, who are willing to put the time in. I don't know that that's going to get you a starting job on many, of these teams, but you'll have a place on these teams.
Well, and I'm going to get the year wrong, but there's not many teams like the DeMatha team. I think it was 2015, 2016 when it was like, Quinn Cook, Victor Oladipo, the Grant brothers.
I mean, their best player
six of those guys
Selby.
Six of those guys are in the NBA.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you have those types of teams. You have a team where you got one guy, maybe 2 if you're lucky. They're going to make it big time college and maybe professional. So you still need those Sean Tuoheys of the world, the Tim Strackens of the world that weren't the best basketball players on the team but fit their role, played their position, were the guys that helped keep the team together.
So it's a little bit different. But you got great coaches, and you got great coaches in all the sports, and you've got the great spirit, and everything evolves. I think like in the 80s, DeMatha probably had more of a lockdown on the talent, right? So they would have, 1 through 30.
That was before free agency was allowed.
Before, but now it's a little bit more dispersed. And I think, 30 years ago and today, there's no better ticket in town, like ever.
Oh, I know my parents would say that. My mom in particular would say one of her favorite things to do is to go watch high school football, basketball, whatever it may be, at the highest level, and you've got it everywhere around here.
It's the best. And I'm like you, obviously, Sean and I work Gonzaga and McNamara and DeMatha, but I go watch WCAC, whether Gonzaga's playing or not.
It's like watching college teams at this point.
And the spirit of the stands. And,
yep.
So you were telling us before, we'll talk about it now. You and I actually got a chance to play against each other. You were a senior, I was a sophomore.
You're gonna run him through this again.
Yeah, I am.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. I am. It's nice enough to come in the studio.
I was saying earlier, my biggest sports disappointment by far was the game that T and I were playing against each other, and.
Well, you played a lot more than I did.
Well, you were also a sophomore and I was a senior. And we weren't expected to be all that good, but we ended up having a really good team. But DeMatha was DeMatha. And they were, I think, number 1 in the city, and we were pretty good. And we were playing great. Remember, we were up by 9 with a minute and a half left, and we started getting tight. We had a packed house. It was awesome. And some certain things happen, maybe on the level, maybe not. But I remember having the ball with 15 seconds left. They had taken the lead, and I was bringing the ball up the court, and I just fell down and got plucked. And then it happened again.
By whom?
By Dwayne St. Pience.
Who I had to play against every single day in practice, so I can feel your pain there.
And a good player, but it still shouldn't have happened. And I remember after the game, just trying to tear my uniform off and crying like a baby. And I was still I look back at that and I'm if I could change one thing about pretty much anything in my life, it'd definitely be that last minute and a half.
And I had to bring.
I never beat DeMatha. And it crushes me.
I had an embarrassing moment in that game as well. I don't know who was responsible.
Your hair get out of place?
When I first checked into the game for the first time, I got the Lauren Arani chant, my girlfriend at the time. Gonzaga's student section always up on their notes, man.
I want to ask you guys, because you are also playing another integral part in the DC sports scene, and I know some people know it, and we know it well, and that's Mr. Tuohey's involvement in bringing baseball back to the city, and his instrumental role in the Nationals coming back to RFK in 2005. And there he is. Can you guys tell us a little bit about that process? Because, I mean, a lot of us, and it's we can kind of divide it out, that process, but then also the fact that, so many of our friends were Baltimore Oriole fans, and the division that it ultimately did cause in a fun way. But I guess take us through just that time, because it was crazy.
I'll let Brendan tell the details, but you have to understand my father. He is the most optimistic man you will ever meet. He only sees in terms of possibilities. And when the, expos were going up for sale, it was, Puerto Rico, Northern Virginia, Vegas. And he was like, this is crazy. Like, it's definitely coming to DC. And he was like the first at the table who was just, and Kornheiser says his optimism won the deal over, and then it actually kept it going. And when it was every time it was about to fall through, his really positivity pushed the thing forward. Brendan, you know the details of it, but that was like the kind of big picture from what I remember.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Sean says optimism. Sometimes people say delusional, but I mean his positivity and also his ability to communicate and work with people and. Rather than fight, really understand, hey, what do I want and how do we get this done rather than go back to your trenches. I remember, I assume you followed it, but like 11th hour, Linda Kropp pulls out this, actually I was for it, but now I don't. And I remember talking to my dad, and people also forget, now you see, you look back and you think, oh, it was happening. Most people didn't think it was going to happen, and you had Northern Virginia, and you had the Orioles really pushing against it. Yeah. And I remember when the thing happened with Linda Kropp being like, Dad, you're done.
It's over.
And he's like, nope, we're going to get it done. I'm like, all right. I don't know if I believe you, but I'm glad you're the one doing it. And then also he would give a lot of credit to Mayor Williams.
Sure.
And what a good job he did. And also, they got a lot of criticism and skepticism about the money and about how they were financing it. They paid back the bonds like 5 years early. So there's no debate that having the Nationals, having Nationals Park in that neighborhood has been a win for everybody, particularly the city, that side, and that community, that area.
And one of the reasons I bring it up also is because, we want to get the Washington football team back into the city. T and I, and we were all talking about, the eventual complete demise and destruction of
which we'll be talking about on our show. Next show.
The old barn,
Stay tuned.
as Mark Rippon called it. Just that it's not impossible, the way that people want to make it sound, to get our teams where they belong. Of course, Washington should have a baseball team. Of course, the football team should play inside, the city limits. Of course, it makes perfect sense, and of course, everybody wants it to happen. So, it's just let everyone understand there are examples of this working. There are ways to make it happen, and it's not like the impossible dream. So I always think about your dad, and I never have had a chance to really talk to him like I'm talking to you guys. But I think about him because I do remember that he got it done, and in that should stand.
He's still at the table with the Washington football team. I think before he passes, he wants two things to happen. I think he wants to bring, the Washington football team to DC, and he wants to see United Ireland, and he spends his days thinking about how to make both those happen.
Oh, that'd be so amazing. Sean, before we let you go, any shout-outs live from Buffalo that you want to give out from the class of 95? Because there are some class of 95 fools following us tonight, and I got a lot of people asking about you. Believe one of them was in that picture we saw leading the pep rally with you standing behind him in shoulder pads.
Andrew Deeren, Pat Maloney, Keegan Tier, Kevin Ricka. I mean, these are all my guys from day one. Brian Burke. I just the friendships we created growing up. Those are just lifelong. And I don't think and I've moved around the world. I don't think everyone has it as good as we have it in DC. So to all my buddies, man, I miss you guys and I love you. And thanks for giving me this time to talk to you guys. It's been great. By the way, the greatest CAC moment I've ever witnessed in person was Lawrence Moton's 102-yard interception return. I was at that game against John Dessler, and that was for me, that was number one. What was yours, T?
We've talked about that. I mean, we had Lawrence on, a few months ago.
Kevin steamrolling Steve Napper in the corner.
Well, that happened.
We've talked about that too.
Happened. Some other things happened in those games.
Sean, you've got to go check out Lawrence when Lawrence took us through that second by second, and it is quite possibly one of the greatest moments on the show.
How good of a football player do you think he could have been?
We talked about it with him.
Yeah.
I thought he could have been the Sean Taylor before Sean Taylor, just given his size and his athletic ability and his speed. To play like the safety position. Yeah. Oh my God, that would have been, again, he would have been Sean Taylor before Sean Taylor was around. He may have been the guy that Sean Taylor said, I want to be like that guy. He could have been that good as far as, but he didn't make a bad decision either.
No.
Oh, God, no. Are you kidding me?
Hey, Sean, a lot of people waiting for that memoir to come out. How's it going?
It's good, man. I'm practicing every day, and I hope I will replace Catcher in the Rye as required reading for all high school students.
Actually, I don't know how many people are excited as they are nervous, but we'll see.
I'll send you a chapter just to keep you warm, okay?
I'm so scared.
California looks great on you, Sean.
Thanks, brother.
It's
I
awesome.
really appreciate the chance. I'm a huge fan of First Amendment, man. You guys are. At some point, this is going to be on. It's going to be its own cable channel. I can see it. Just keep plugging, man.
We just need to get Tuohey's involved. They seem to get everything done. Peace players, international peace through basketball, bringing the Nats back to D.C. and possibly the Skins. I mean, just get a Tuohey involved.
I don't know.
Involved.
I'm putting you in charge of reliving some of the moments I've been told over the last 25 years, I'll just play the guy on the sidelines. But Brendan, also, same kind of question. We really appreciate having you on, and there's a lot of good representation, from the 91s, the 92s, and the 93s that you grew up with. Anyone you want to send a shout out to while you're here?
Just my son, who will be in Gonzaga in about 2 years.
And it continues.
Cannot wait.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Tell him, and again, don't tell him not to listen to his Uncle Sean. Tell him to get out there and.
So my daughters and my son, they're pretty much our all favorite person is Sean. So they love listening to the stories, especially when it's in front of my mom.
Yeah. Okay.
To hear.
There you go. Well,
by the way, Sean, we forgot. We got to give a shout out. Our mom's birthday tonight. Happy birthday, Mom. We love you.
Happy birthday,
She's
Mrs.
listening.
Tuohey.
I set it up. I gave both of you a chance.
Yep. I said it, though, not Sean.
And Andrew Cleary. They share the same birthday. So
I'm sure your mom loves that sentiment, too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cleary tonight. Hope he's still rocking that beard,
by the way. Can we end just a quick good story about my mom?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're playing – Sean played for Lehigh, played for Colgate. We played each other twice. The first time we're playing at Lehigh. They don't have that many people in the stands, so you could hear everything coming from stands. And they had interviewed me like the week before, and I had said some things about Lehigh and that we were going to win and we're better and all that. So they posted that. Yeah, they posted on the thing. And I think I did a good job. My brothers that they're both better basketball players than me. So Sean was a really good player, and I was probably more like a role player in college. But we were guarding each other for a lot of the game. And early on, there was a loose ball, and I think I dove for it and might have caused Sean to fall. And my mom, in the middle of the game, yelled, "Brendan, be nice to your brother." And there weren't that many people there, so everyone heard it and everyone started laughing.
Well, you need to be nice to your brother.
But he didn't take it nice on you, Sean, because you lost both games. And he was
we were
sure
the
to say
worst team. Lehigh, we lost. We were the last ranked team in Division I my sophomore year. We lost the first 13 games, and then our only senior captain skipped the game against Penn for a fraternity formal.
What?
Didn't you guys play Duke?
That year we got smashed. Yeah, but like
Oh,
it was a
shocking.
it was a dumpster fire. We were down 42-2 2 minutes before the half against Princeton. So that's why I packed up and went down to Catholic.
Sean played on a Monday for Lehigh, then played on a Wednesday for Catholic.
Yeah. I played against Duke in late
and then
December,
East Strasburg.
Then I played against Gallaudet in early January.
That's fun.
The largest spectrum you could imagine.
That's awesome.
You hold number one in that list.
Yeah, but no, this has been great, man. I really appreciate this. I got 2 little kids running around, so I gotta go put them to bed. But thank you guys for this, man. This is I'm a huge fan.
All right, Sean, we're gonna let you go. We appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, my
Thanks,
friend.
guys. See you, brother.
Sean Tuohey, we can say it now because he's not here. The second most handsome, Tuohey brother, right? I mean, that's just
We're
a fact.
both more handsome than Kevin. So
There you go.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, listen, we appreciate you being here tonight. We hope maybe there's a chance you might stick around and hang out with us for a little DC sports talk.
TGIT.
Well,
Yeah.
thank God it's Tuesday. We're going to be back again next Tuesday night covering the absolute best high school conference in the land, hopefully providing positive stories like the one we did tonight, people from our conference doing good by not just the schools they went to, but by our entire league. And so I know Gonzaga's super proud of the Tuohey family, but so is everyone else who went through our schools. And it's obviously a pleasure not just to have you on here, but, I want to make sure I keep getting as many strokes as possible when we're out on the golf course.
I don't think that's going to change.
No, come on, I'm working on it.
I'm just joking.
He's Tim Strachan.
Hey, Brendan and Sean, thank you. Congratulations on what you've accomplished, but good luck continuing with what Peace Players International is doing. You guys are just unbelievable. Tuohey family, unbelievable. Happy birthday again to Mrs. Tuohey.
Without a doubt.
A great Tuesday night. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Love what you guys are doing.
We will continue to do it. We will not cut corners, just like our awesome sponsor. We want to say thank you to again over at Lido. I want to say thank you to Luke and Sean in the booth tonight, helping us out, making us look good. Until next Tuesday night, I'm Ken Marangolo, and this was the WCAC Spectacular. And that's Kevin Ricka's favorite song. How about a picture of Luke David? Do we have one of those?